right, this is for Algebra 2, Lesson 22. It's on the distance formula and the midpoint formula. And when they're asking for the distance formula, they're wanting you to be able to find the distance between any 2 points. So, if you'll look at 22a, on number 3, and I'm just going back from the book, they give you these 2 points. They tell you that A is negative 2, 3, and they tell you B is 1, 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and just for a good review, let's go ahead and plot these. Remember this point right here, negative 2, 3, you're going to go from the center, you're going to go left 2 and then up 3. So you should be right there. Let me make sure I should have taped that down. Okay, so there's that point right there, negative 2, 3. And then my other point was 1, 5. So I'm going to go over 1 and then up 5. So I'm right here. So there we are. They're wanting you to find the distance exactly between those 2 points. Okay, so let's look at our formula. What does it say? Now you can derive this formula using the Pythagorean theorem, which if you're interested in that, I can show you how to do that. It's kind of cool. But what you do is you need a big square root symbol, and it says, hey, just take your x values. And the reason they have these like little subscripts right here is they're showing you that these are 2 different x values. For example, you have 2 different x values right here. It says, hey, subtract them. Who cares what order you're going to do it in? And then square it. Okay? You're going to do the same thing with 2 different y values right here. You're going to subtract them and then square it. After you do that, add them together, take the square root, you've got it. Okay? Let's do one for example. So if I want to find the distance between these 2 points, x square root symbol, this says take your x's and subtract them. You can subtract them in any order you want. I'm going to do 1 minus a negative 2. So I'm going to do 1 minus a negative 2 squared. Okay, and I'm going to subtract my y. So I'm going to do 5 minus 3. So I'm going to subtract them. And then I'm going to square it. Be real careful here with your negatives, because when you subtract a negative, remember that you're really adding. So notice here you're going to get 3, and 3 squared is going to give you 9. So this gives me 9. This is what, 2, and 2 squared is 4. So this is all under the square root symbol. So it looks to me like our distance is the square root of 13. Okay, let's try another one. If you look at number 5, and again, I'm on lesson 22a, it wants you to find the distance between B and C. And it tells me that B is the point 1, 5, same point up here, and C is the point 3, negative 2. Okay? So, remember if you were going to graph this one, that you're going to go right 3 and then down 2. I want to make sure everybody can graph. So you go right 3, down 2. So you're right there. So let me make a little point right there. So now I am looking for the distance between these 2 points. Not kind of, but exactly. Okay? So the way I do it, my distance formula says I need a huge square root symbol. Subtract your x's. So I'm going to do 3 minus 1 and square it. Take your y's, subtract them. Now, you can go in any order you want, but just for a good habit, since I did this one first, I'm going to do this one first. So I'm going to do negative 2 minus 5, square it. Realize that when you square these, no matter what order you subtract it in, you're going to get the same answer when you square it, because it's always going to be positive. Because, for example, look, 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Even if you would have done 1 minus 3, you would have gotten a negative 2. But when you square it, you still get a positive 4. So who cares what order you subtract them in? Okay, negative 2 minus 5 is what? Negative 7. But when you square it, you're going to get a positive 49. So it looks to me like the distance here is the square root of 53. You know, just leave it like this. I don't want a decimal answer. This is perfect, just like it is. If you can simplify it, if there's a perfect square in it, make sure you go ahead and do that. Okay? Now, it also asks us to find the midpoint. And since I already have these points here, I'm just going to go ahead and keep using these points. So what is the midpoint formula? Let me get this little piece of paper here. think about it. When you're asking for the midpoint, you're asking for the point in the middle. It's a lot like finding the average. If you were going to find a number that came exactly between two other numbers, you know, how do you do it? Well, you'd add them together and divide by 2. That's exactly what you do here. If you want to find the midpoint of two different points, you're going to add your x values together and divide by 2. Same thing. You're going to add your y values together and divide by 2. Okay? Pretty simple. Okay, so what points did we use? Remember A, we had -2, 3, and B, we had 1, 5. If I was going to find the midpoint, now we just found the distance. How about if we find the point in the middle? It says, take your x values and add them together and divide by 2. Do the same thing here. Take your y's, add them together and divide by 2. So simplify, -2 plus 1 is what? -1. So we have -1/2, which is -1/2. Here we're going to get 8/2, which is 4. That would be the midpoint. Okay, now look, is it really, does it look like it's in the midpoint? -1/2, so we're going to go over -1/2 and up 4, and it's right there. So it looks pretty good. There it is. So it's exactly in the middle between those two. Okay, let's try another one. Remember, we already also used this value c, which was 3, -2. What if we want to find the point between these two, the midpoint? Okay, again, to find the midpoint, it's like the average. Take your x's, add them together, divide by 2. Take your y's, add them together, and divide by 2. Okay, so what do we get here? 4/2, which is 2. -2 plus 5 is what? 3/2. Let's see if that works. That's like 2 and 1.5. So if I go over 2 and up 1.5, you know, obviously I didn't use a straight edge, but it's right there, and it should be the exact midpoint between those 2 points. And that's how you do it. Enjoy.